You are about to hear an excerpt from SP Home Run's Data Center Sales Funnel Acceleration Q&A webinar, introducing Joshua Feinberg, Chief Thought Leader of SP Home Run.
Is it possible for your data center to grow revenue with very limited staff and not much time to create content? Really depends on, we don't really have quotes around limited, but it depends on how limited we're actually talking about. Certain corners just aren't worth cutting. You do need that product market fit. It can be extremely painful and extremely difficult a lot of times to get to that product market fit until there's at least a couple $1 million in revenue coming into your data center, until there's at least a couple years of history in place. You need SMART goals to help support this. You need buyer personas, you need keyword research, you need conversion paths, calls to action, landing pages, thank you emails, thank you pages for each buyer persona, each buyer's journey stage, and some kind of workflows. So if you're not there to babysit the leads and new leads are coming in, they continue to get hyper-relevant content that continues to nurture them on a regular basis. Automation is a big, big deal. So certain corners just can't be cut. Another big thing that you really can't afford to cut corners on is at this stage of the game, your website needs to be responsive. It needs to be mobile friendly. Not only so it doesn't look like crap on a phone, but because Google now actually gives strong preference to sites that are mobile friendly, that do look good on a phone, that do look good across all different screens. The reason that changed earlier this year is Google got to a tipping point where more than half of their website traffic in the United States is coming from mobile devices. As a result, they don't want to send people from search results anymore to your obsolete website that was last touched 5 years ago in an outdated CMS that probably has vulnerabilities for security issues too, but on a more practical level, it fails the mobile-friendly test. It comes up with a big red X's, which means that Google is now going to start penalizing you and favoring sites that do look much better on phones. So the site, again, should be optimized for mobile, should be optimized for your buyer personas, for the search topics that matter most to you. Conversion paths are a big, big deal. There needs to be every page needs to have a goal. Usually that goal is to generate some kind of lead and push someone further down the funnel. And social sharing is important too. All of the major engines, Google, Bing, and Yahoo, have come out and said that in one way, shape, or form, they're now taking social sharing signals into account for how they rank content on search engines. So even if you personally are not a big fan of Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook or Google Plus or what have you, if your buyer personas say that these are important channels for them, one, you need to be there for that reason alone. And secondly, even if you completely ignore that, you need to be there to satisfy that other big stakeholder, the search engines like Google, who said that, in addition to all the other things we look at with authoritative, relevant inbound links, we're going to look at how your content does on social media. If you have less staff, if you have less time, usually this will dictate having more investment in paid search and more investment in sponsored social as soon as your conversion paths and your workflows are built out. Throwing money into paid search or throwing money into paid social before you have conversion paths is usually what gets people to our doorstep, where they've had a very painful experience wasting a ton of money driving all the traffic into the homepage, and they wonder why they get nothing out of it. The reason why they end up getting nothing out of it is like 80-90% of the people that visit your website that could be a good fit to buy later aren't buying today. And if you don't have conversion paths, if you don't have calls to action to landing pages, it's kind of like going out shopping for a car and the salesperson at the dealership refuses to talk to you because you're not going to buy or lease today. It's an excruciatingly painful experience, and your website may be doing the same thing if you're not careful. You still need to have remarkable content where there's a lot of love on search and social going on. Otherwise, you're just ego boosting a lot of times by the highest paid person in the organization, the hippo, the CEO, whatever you want to call it. Data center companies that have aggressive growth goals make aggressive investments and see most of these things as assets, not expenses. And these assets drive differentiation, and they drive positioning, and most of all, they drive higher margins.
Thanks so much for stopping by today. Make sure that you listen to the full recording of the Data Center Sales Funnel Acceleration Q&A webinar now at sphomerun.com/DCS webinar.